This is the Ridiculously Amazing Insurance Agent podcast hosted by me, Kelly Donahue-Piro. This show is for growing agencies looking to maximize their biggest investment, their people. We mash up our 3-minute videos from the previous week, all with tips on how to be ridiculously amazing at insurance sales, retention, processes, marketing, running in an agency, and time management. If you want them daily, like us on social media as they're posted. But let's get started. Hey everybody, it's Kelly Donahue-Piro here for another ridiculously amazing mashup of our podcasts. And today our 3-minute videos all focus on how do we get value over price? And there's 4 mistakes that just keep coming up over and over and over again as I go to agencies. And it's just like on repeat almost. So the first one we're going to go over is emailing quotes. I'm going to talk a lot about why I feel so strongly that that's not the right fit. The next one is automatically requoting. So as opposed to talking to the client, what we do is we requote them and then call them and tell them we got a better rate. The next is, do you believe you're worth more to your ideal customer? And I go off on this video because I'm so passionate about it. And the last one is team training. Are we training our team on value? Ritz-Carlton trains their team on how to be valuable. The top luxury brands train their team on how to be different. And I don't think in agencies we've gotten there. So we're going to go ahead and go through all these topics today on your 3-minute video mashup. We'll see you in the first video. All right, here's our first video all about not emailing quotes, which is like one of my all-time highest rated videos I did during COVID. It was the lonely part of COVID, so it was a little crazy, I think, in it. But I'm very passionate that we can't email quotes if we want to show our value. So let's dive in and talk a little more about that. Hey everybody, it's Kelly Donahue-Piro here for another section of 3-minute videos. And this one we're going to really dive into. Let's talk about value versus price. And I think a lot of agencies think that they make it all about value, but a lot of the strategies and workflows and just some of the processes internally I've been finding really don't make it about value. And I want to kind of confront some of those in this week's videos. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the first one, which is it's actually one of our highest watched videos during COVID. I kind of lost my mind on an 8-minute, 3-minute video, which you can find, all about not emailing quotes. So our strategy is you need to show your value. Your value is explaining coverage and talking to the person and saying, because you have this, we recommend this. And so many times I find that, the agent gets done with the quote, emails it and says, I'll call you and we can go over it. No. Our strategy when we launch our Apex sales training with agencies is you should be trying to get to 4 and score, which is 4 lines, and then 2 options. That's 8 quotes. That's insanity. You're not going to email that to somebody without a conversation. And you should email them the final product, not your estimate. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we just want to get it off our desk, get it over to people. And in insurance, we think everybody buys the way we do, right? So we assume that because you may want to see it, that everybody wants to see it too. And I always say, that's not really the case though. And I think we have an opportunity to act a little differently and to show up differently. So there's different personality types, and like mine in particular, I wouldn't need to see it. If I built trust and I felt confident in the person talking to, I'd say, let's just do it. Other personalities feel like they need to see it. But so many times when we email that quote, people make a judgment call if they'll ever talk to you again. And again, it's very complicated. The way quotes are written, it's not value. It's not, what do I get? How does this protect me? It's legal language. So you're putting something super complicated into the hands of an average person, which is not bad, but you're expecting them to look at anything other than price. Now, I don't know much about cars. So when I take my car in and they say, you need this who's what's it and spark plugs and everything else, I'm like, huh? And so I look at the price and I make an assessment of if I should get it or not. And if the person there explained to me the value of spark plugs or explained to me the value of what they're proposing or what could happen, I'd feel differently. But a lot of times they just kind of put that estimate in front of you and say, this is what you need. When do you want to take it in? And I think that's where we get jacked up on value, is that the value is, first of all, during your sales process, understanding the person so you know what's important to them, building policy options, not just one options that work, and then sitting down and working with them on it. And it's so funny because so many things that used to be done traditionally in an agency, coming in, sitting down face to face, belly to belly, as they used to call it, and reviewing things have gone away. And the reality is they need to be put back in, but more efficiently. So I'm going to beg everybody, do not email the quote. When you email a quote, you're making it about price. That's the only thing that generally the person has to go off of. So they're going to look at that, make an assumption, decide if they're going to talk to you again. But in their mind, price is there. In fact, when we talk about delivering a quote, we think you should go through the carrier, everything included, and then the price. We don't lead in with price at all because you have to talk to them about the value first. So just challenge yourself. Is your agency making the remarketing and new business process about price by emailing quotes before a conversation? And if that's the case, stop it immediately. You're feeding the price monster and you want to instead take a step back and really instead embrace the idea of my values education and sending them the final quote, if not the application at the end. And that's our 3-minute video today, all on how to have value over price. Next up here, the mayor, Heath Sharon, is going to talk a little bit about the automatic requote, which is requoting because the rate goes up. We don't talk to the client, and that just drives into price. We don't know if their life's changed or coverage changed, if they like the carrier. We just assume they're going to be pissed about the rate. So we dive into, no, I will come to you with a better rate. And we've had no conversation. Not only is it a waste of your team's time, but it's also just driving and feeding the price monster. So let's dive into this 3-minute video.
Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's the mayor here, Heath Sharon, with APP, and we are discussing another 3-minute video. And this week we are talking about focusing on value and not price. And so many agencies claim that they do this, but we have found that a lot of times this is a little bit more difficult than one might think. And agencies immediately start thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Their price went up. And this is why we believe in the review calls and why we feel like you should never remarket without having a conversation. This is a proactive approach. Jump on it before they have an opportunity to get that letter in the mail, or they get upset and they call you and say, my rates went up. What's going on? We believe that on this call, you can make sure you have this conversation and you can discuss things other than price. You can look at this and say, review their claims, review negative activity on the account. Maybe they had some claims, or maybe some things happened that week. And you can also look for any missing discounts. This conversation is super important. And that way you don't focus. Some people do focus on the price and they immediately go to the reshop, or they immediately go to, well, we've got other options. Let's go, because that's the greatest thing about being an independent agent. And while that's true, in a lot of cases, we want to make sure that we focus on the value of an independent agent more than just the price. Instead of making about price, let's talk about it. Show the value you bring and that your agency brings to the table. You could discuss updates that may lead to discounts. Maybe they got a new roof. Maybe they updated and got a new HVAC system, or maybe they updated some plumbing. Maybe they updated some electrical wiring, whatever it might have been. There's some things in there in that conversation that you can have that would be able to add some discounts and show your value along the way. So again, while it's helping them with price, it's not making it all about price. It's obviously showing them educational value that you bring and the value of being an independent agent. You can also, instead of talking price, you can talk about the value of maybe the carrier that you put them with. And you can also explain to them some of the negative impacts of a reshop and what that looks like. I also think throughout this process that we should be looking at maybe even some life changes. Do you have a child driver now? Maybe that's going to, cause some of that. Maybe you had a child, or maybe you look at, did you get a new pool? Did you get a new trampoline? Or maybe a new dog? Maybe some things like that caused the rates to go up as that was reported in or whatnot. There's some different things that go on within life changes that you can discuss with them. And maybe a child moved out. Maybe you have one less driver. Maybe you could put that on there and take off some rate there. Some things like that that you could look at, so that you make it not about price necessarily, but about the value that you bring. You also, I feel like we got to get better at having that difficult conversation instead of immediately going into, a panic mode of, oh gosh, we could shop you, and, I know your price went up, and let's look at that, and, freaking out about that. Maybe we can get better at having that conversation to discuss with them some of the things that we bring to the table, and you can talk to them about the price and educate them on why those things went up. And those difficult conversations will get easier as you have those more and more. I hope this 3-minute video has helped you, and I look forward to hanging out with you this week and discussing that with you. Hope you have a great day.
Hi, everyone. I just want to make sure that you have resources to be ridiculously amazing, which is why if you go to our website, agencyperformancepartners.com, and scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a link to take our ridiculously amazing insurance agent quiz. This goes over 12 questions over 6 topics to see how ridiculously amazing your agency is. At the end, you will get a scorecard to see the areas that you may need to focus on. You'll also be invited to take a very special course, which is how to clean up those 6 areas, all at a very discounted special price. So hopefully you'll take us up on this area of going and checking out our ridiculously amazing agent quiz at agencyperformancepartners.com. All right, next up is something I'm so passionate about, which is really, can we believe that we're worth more? Because if we don't believe we're worth paying more for, the customer never, ever will. And I walk you through kind of a framework of what we're talking about. We say, do we believe we're worth more? Because we should be. And I want you to listen to this 3-minute video and take it back to your team. It's an awesome opportunity. All right, for our next 3-minute video on how we make things about price, not value, we're going to talk a little bit about something I get super fired up by when I'm in front of clients, which is, do you believe you're worth paying more for? And there's so many brands out there that do believe. You know, there was a time where the CEO of Starbucks sat in a room and said, I'm going to make an $8 cup of coffee that people are going to wait in line for. That is insanity, right? When you think about it out loud, but we've all done it, or most of us have. And so when you build enough value in what you're doing and your expertise, you can drive the price. But I think in insurance, we get a little tripped up because we don't pick the price necessarily. So our expertise is all in how we can get that price down, which is false. You are worth paying more for. In the event of a claim, who do you want picking up the phone? And I think the hard part is that we don't feel like we're worth more. So we can't project that to the client. We can't explain that to the client with confidence. And I always say when you're selling a new client, if you're coming in lower with better coverage, it's just like sign here. That's not real sales. If you're kind of neck and neck, that's some real sales. You got to sell your value. What's the worth? Is it worth the hassle of switching for that? If you're coming in hot, I kind of think that's almost sometimes fun because it's like, this is why I'm so much more. And this is what you're going to get out of it. And you and your family or you and your business have to make a decision. But I think so often because the teams are only confident when we're winning on price, or we didn't do the work to ask the questions of what were you paying? What are you expecting to pay? We get super tripped up. And it's like, yeah, no, I know it's more. We'll try again next year. No, you have them on the hook. Let's go for it. Explain your value. What do you do that's better than everybody else? You know, if you think about the luxury brands in the world, why can Mercedes charge more for a car? Better craftsmanship, better experience. You know, those are all big things for the right clientele. And if your agency has not identified the ideal customer, what ends up happening is we try to be everything to everybody. So we're like McDonald's and Ruth Chris all at the same time, and we can't be that way. The team needs to be trained on how to serve and cater to your ideal clientele. It is much different walking into a Ritz-Carlton versus walking into like a Courtyard Marriott. By nature, they have picked their ideal clientele and are trying to cater to them. And so with so much choice in the world, agencies have to pick that and then be able to defend their value and their price, because we will pay more when it's done right. But we have to explain that. I always say no one wants to pay more for insurance, but that moment you need to use it, you want it done right and you want no questions about it. And this means sometimes we have to give bad news to people or explain ourselves in a way. And so few agencies have role played that, scripted it out, made the team feel comfortable, that I think everybody wants people to feel about value and say, oh, sell the value, but we haven't given them how or a toolkit or what to say. What is our value? And that's what I'm begging agencies to do today, is to say, if you want to make things about value, make them about value, but you got to own that value proposition 100%. And that takes some planning, some education, or partnerships with people like us to help you get there. But what do you spend more on? Think about it. I just bought a brand new laptop. I got the new Surface something or other. And I looked at it and I was looking at the other ones. I looked at the reviews and I spent probably a third more for this laptop, but it just seemed like the right decision. Same thing. I'm currently have my Yeti water cup out next to me, keeps everything cold, goes in the dishwasher. That Yeti Rambler is what, 45, 30 to $40. It's been a while since I bought them. I pay more for that because of the quality, and I can put it in the dishwasher and it's not going to be junk. So for everybody on here, understand people will pay more if they understand the value. And it's your responsibility to be able to share that value confidently, precisely, and to your ideal customers so they know what to expect. And that's how you're going to move away from price into actual value. The next one we're probably biased on because we do a lot of training here at APP, but training your team is so critical. Remember, the Ritz-Carlton employees are trained. They're trained to give extraordinary service. So we assume everybody's just going to go do it and make all these judgment calls. No, there needs to be a plan and processes and the right mindset and mentality so your team can execute on extraordinary service that fits the needs of your target market. Again, in insurance, we have to stop trying to serve everybody and start getting really clear on who we want to work with. When we do that, we can tailor our experience to them. Let's talk about that in this video.
Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's the mayor here, Heath Sheeran, with another 3-minute video. And this week we are discussing something that comes up quite a bit when we talk to agencies. And as I've stepped in many of agencies over the years, this comes up about price. And one of the things about being an independent agent and the wonderful things is that we can market and we can reshop and people get caught up in this so many times instead of discussing the value that we can add as an independent agent. And today I do want to discuss a little bit about team training. You and your agency, have you guys had some team training on this to discuss how to explain rate? From the carrier perspective, maybe they had some tough losses that year, or maybe there was some weather pattern issues, or maybe there's some things that went on that are out of their control, out of the client's control, out of your control, but explaining why these rates went up, or discussing even, within the auto industry, the cost of vehicles is going up. And so maybe that's what's causing it, or maybe there's some negative activity on their account. Maybe there was some missing discounts out there that you weren't aware of, that you uncovered throughout the process of the review. There's so many different things out there that your team could discuss on explaining that rate. And there's a lot of other things out there that you could uncover as well. Another thing that I like to look into is explaining to your customer your value proposition. Has you and your team had that conversation, sat down, maybe even whiteboarded it, to say, whiteboarded it, that's interesting. Is that a word? Whiteboarded that to say, why do people buy from XYZ agency, your agency, so to speak? Why do they buy from you? What value do you bring to the table? And come up with a value statement, so to speak, of they do this because of these things, whether it's community involvement or what you guys do within the agency, your sales process, or whatever you guys come up with during that team training, to have that written value proposition so that when you're on the phone with this and you get stuck on these conversations and they bring up rate, you can have something to go to point to and say, this is why you do business with our agency. This is why some of our customers enjoy doing business with our agency. And share some of that. It's a fun session if you wanted to have that session with your team to come up with the value. I also like to have individuals come up with their own individual value proposition on top of the team proposition. People do business with Heath Sheeran, John Doe, Jane Doe because of what you bring to the table personally. And so I remember as an agent, one of the value propositions I brought to the table was I did come from the carrier side. So I did understand some of those things. And I worked in a claims office. And so for me as a producer, I would lean on some of that and share that as my own personal value proposition. Think about those things for you and what that might bring to the table instead of talking about the price. And once you get that value proposition nailed down from the team perspective and individual perspective, role play that out, practice that, and go through that so that it just becomes a natural conversation, and it helps you to avoid thinking price. And then, that lastly would lead to the question of, does your team see themselves as valuable, whether it's individually or as a agency? And so that becomes another part of it. If they have that confidence and they feel like what they're doing brings value over price, that's going to come out more, and it's going to give the client more of that confidence in your agency. I really hope these things have helped. If you haven't gotten any team training going, let's think about doing some of these things and discussing that maybe in your next sales meeting. Have a great day, guys.
All right, that's our videos. We don't do any sponsors. We don't do anything for these things. They're all here for you, for value, to get the word out. So if you liked what we had to say, leave a comment, share, ask a question. We are always looking for good content for our videos, so we'd love to hear from you. That's it for today. Have a great one.